B1 family, welcome to Blacklogic. Now, despite decades passing since the civil rights era, little has changed for the stability of foundational Black Americans. Because stemming back from the systemic racial redlining affecting many parts of the Black community that is basically knocking the legs off the table, affecting healthcare affordability, unemployment, inflation, education, housing, to even crime. The disparities are very glaring, and politicians often make promises during election time, yet the issues facing our community, the issues facing the foundational Black American community remain unaddressed time and time again. It's time to confront the racial tropes used to dismiss the need, see, of the reparations fight, of the reparations movement. It's time to confront those racial tropes. And the needing for reparations, for economic restorations. So please dwell here with me as we can get into the conversation, family. Hopefully I have some things to enlighten you. So every election cycle, politicians, mostly Democrats, come into our communities, come into our neighborhoods every 2 to 4 years, whether it be federal or state, making these grand promises. They talk a big game about justice, equality, and change all the time. But once they get into office, how many of our issues actually get addressed? Remember the motivation, remember the energy behind it, how they used to get out and vote, and you get a button, and they hold fish fries, and they hold parties and tap dance, and they get rappers and singers, and everybody's out there like it's a picnic. Everybody's out there like it's a cookout. But how many of our issues actually get addressed? How many of our struggles are met with real lasting solutions? How many? How many of our struggles are met with real lasting solutions? Very, very few. So few, so minute that none of us can even tell. They come, they get our votes, and then they disappear when we see it time and time again. So let's talk numbers. Black Americans are still at the bottom of every economic category in the U.S. We face higher unemployment rates, lower home ownership rates, and less access to affordable health care. Inflation hits us the harder because we're not making as much as everyone else. Our education system is underfunded. Our neighborhoods are over-policed, and the list goes on and on. These aren't just statistics. These are our lives, our daily struggles. This will occur, family. This is coming from the AmericanProgress.org. Chronic health conditions. Black Americans have higher rates of diabetes, hypertension, and heart disease than any other group. Nearly 15% of Black Americans have diabetes compared with just 8% of whites. Why do we have health disparities? All of these things are systemic. All of these things are like falling dominoes, family. We don't make equal pay to our counterparts doing equal jobs, doing equal work. Thus, we have to provide a less quality food to our people, thus leading to these particular problems. Now, of course, there's some people who make their own health choices when it comes to fast food, etc. But we're talking about people who are going out, going to the grocery store, instead of buying organic or something that's higher in quality, because of the amount we get paid through systemic unemployment, systemic low wages, we have to get canned food and outdate or about to outdate food because it's a little bit cheaper. This is what we go through. And I'm not giving people pass if they make unhealthy choices. This is not what that's about. But here's another question. Systematic racial redlining. Let's break that down, right? Redlining started really back in the 1930s when the government created maps to show where it was safe to insure mortgages. Of course, they circled the Black neighborhoods in red because we don't have to really guess where about these neighborhoods. They knew exactly what they were doing. It was an actual plan. It was an actual scheme. And this made it nearly impossible for Black families to get home loans, buy property, or even build wealth. Even to this day, we have some Black people who are very prominent, very financially stable. They can't get in some of the most elitist communities. Not stating that they should, but a lot of this redlining / gentrification still exists. This wasn't just about housing, it was about economic exclusion that was sanctioned by the government. It was sanctioned by the government because fast forward today, and those same red lines may not be on the maps anymore, but the effects are still with us. Our communities have fewer resources, our schools are underfunded, and our access to healthcare is very, very limited. Yet despite all of this, we're still told to pull ourselves up by our bootstraps. But what do you do, as Martin Luther King states, when you don't even have boots? That is the part they're foregoing. That is the problem that they're going through, family. Voting. Let's pop this up very quickly. This is coming from the I think we just went over there. Give me 1 second. When we talk about education, and I'm gonna break this down maybe a couple ways here. They say Asian students had the highest graduation rates in 2014. I know this dates back a little bit. And they're stating here in deep maroon purple, whatever color this is, did not graduate high school. And we see Blacks at 27%, the highest. The lowest in graduation, but the highest in who didn't graduate. Let me scroll down here a little bit. More than half of recent high school grads enrolled in college. Okay, the grayed out area states that not enrolled in college or did not graduate high school. Why are some of these statistics important? Are they important to point out what group is being degraded and being denied the most? No. This is to form a narrative that Black people are the most uneducated group. See, statistics can work both ways, family. It can report how one group was denied resources and access to education to a certain degree, but it also can paint another narrative that this is our most unintelligent, uneducated group. They can look at very, very different ways. Racial and ethnic disparities in educational attainment persist in rural America. It states here that the research shows that Hispanics, Black Americans, Native Americans, Alaska Native groups continue to have lower rates of educational attainment than whites. Although the educational attainment of these ethnic and racial minority groups increased over the last 2 decades, they remain only half as likely as whites to have a bachelor's degree or even higher in 2018. Asian Americans were the only rural racial minority group to have a higher percentage with a bachelor's or advanced degree. 40% then to whites to 21%. This is all painting a narrative. But see, there's a lot of things that occurred during this reparations conversation. I get multiple comments. I know all the people in this space get multiple comments of the same racial tropes, but not understanding what this government has sanctioned even after slavery and Jim Crow, how it has denied and limited resources very scarcely. But the racial tropes, family, we're talking about the same played out story, but they continue to use it because they believe it's effective. Like, stop being lazy. You wasn't a slave. I wasn't a slave match. It happened so long ago. And this is all designed to shut down our fight for reparations. And here's the thing, family, there's a lot of grassroots activists getting on the street, going to the courthouses, going to the political theaters in order to put in that work. So you don't have to fight with nobody on social media about groundwork that's being done. That's time wasting. See, they want us to forget the past, ignore the systematic barriers, and they just want us just to move on. Pull yourselves up and work hard. And but you didn't have to work hard. Or generational wealth was passed down in your family, but it was stolen and ours destroyed, as well as being denied. Remember Black Wall Street back in 1921 in the Greenwood district? That was one of the most prosperous Black communities in the country, but it wasn't the only one. There was other Black Wall Streets as well as Black business districts. But it was burned to the ground by a white mob. And still to this day, this American government will recognize, award, symbolism after symbolism, but nothing tangible for those survivors of the Tulsa, Oklahoma riots or the Tulsa, Oklahoma genocide. Nothing tangible. No reparations, no justice. You have to repair and restore what you have done, but rather you get as a pat on the back and a rub on the head. And see, that's just one of the examples of many thriving Black communities that has been destroyed by white violence and sanctioned neglect. Because think about that, family. Think about if you look up the other Black Wall Streets. If you just do a quick Google search, look up the other Black Wall Streets. I want you to relate that to your family, because maybe one of those Black Wall Streets was in a town, or your family derives from that town. You may never know. But we're talking about millions of acres of land stolen, property destroyed and never restored. Let me tell you something, family. If it wasn't for these massacres and genocides and destruction of the Black business districts and the Black Wall Streets that we had, there'll be a great many of Black Americans that are million and billionaires, and not just the ones that you can count on your finger. We know who the richest Black woman in the world is, Oprah Winfrey. We know who our billionaires are, because we don't have many. But every day you can walk downtown in your nearest city and walk me past millionaires and billionaires and never know it. This is how this has put us behind. This is kind of like we have ball and chain. We have 150-pound weight on our back, and we're trying to run just as fast as people in the same starting block. But just to come find out, we didn't even start at the same time. Even though we're fast, they keep resetting the start line. What does that mean? Every time Black people build something, there's a group of white supremacists that destroy it, or those white supremacists adjacent, as well as those turncoats. That's what occurs. We've always had the spirit of self-reliance, have we not? We've built businesses, created cultures, damn near, and people hate when Black people say this, we damn near created all the cultures in a sense. And we thrive despite every obstacle, through all the obstacles our people been through. And here's what they do, family. They kind of do this duality of mindset where they say, well, look at these Black people. They made it, while they know they limit, they cap, they seal how many Black people will actually be prominent, how many Black people will actually reach a certain class. But they will give you the illusion, they will give you delusion, they will give you the illusion, and they will give you the delusion that, yeah, all of you can make it. And at the same time, you can see that not all of them are making it. Let's be real. The American government is the entity that has sanctioned and perpetuated these limitations and discrimination. Back from Jim Crow laws to mass incarceration, policies like the 1994 crime bill, we have been systematically oppressed since the colonizers came to this land and since he brought up his son as well. So the big question here, why do we keep voting? Why do we keep putting our faith in a system that has consistently failed us? Is it time to rethink our strategies? Don't get me wrong. Voting can be important. Voting can be important, but it's not the be all and end all when there's nothing on the table of what you're voting for. See, we demand and we need what is owed: reparations, real tangible reparations, to repair and to restore what was stolen and destroyed and denied. We need policies that address systematic racism, a Black anti-hate crime bill. And we have a large group of people, whether it be on the Democratic side or now flocking to the Republican side, not holding politicians accountable. And that have to be consistently, not just during election season, but every day. Because we need what we are owed to support and build our own community so we can invest in our own Black businesses. Just as well, they built an empire with the blood, sweat, and tears and free labor that they received. The only thing we're saying is give you what you owe, so we can create our own system of support and empowerment. Because it's really time to change the narrative and take control of our future. It really is. Because when you look at these issues across the board, unemployment, with the exception of Native Americans right here in the middle here, family, at 9%. But here's the thing about Native Americans. When have you guys ran into a Native American and realized you ran into a Native American? What I'm saying, for majority of people, it's rare unless you're out, if you're in Seattle, maybe. If you're in Oklahoma, maybe, where a lot of the tribes are most prevalent. But if you're not going on a reservation, you're not really running into Native Americans every day. You're just not. And if you believe that all Native Americans out here with jobs, they're not. And I'm not going to get into a debate or argument with people, but let me tell you, I lived in Washington State. I've been on reservations. They get paid every month. They have free housing. They have government-funded schools, and they get paid every month, as well as bonuses and kickbacks from the casinos that's on reservation land. So some of them, not all, get two forms of income. So it doesn't matter of the Native American unemployment rate. But look at our rate at 8% compared to the rest of the country, the rest of the people here. See, and they separated, look at this, they separated people of color from Black people. You guys see that? They separated that. Let's see if they combined it. Nope. People of color, as of 2020, 2.9 million. Black Americans, 1.19 million. Of course, whites has the less unemployment rate at 3 million. And this is also in conjunction with their total population. So I don't want to get you confused with the numbers. What about earnings? When we look at the earning disparities between different people. So 97 million workers are white. 17 million workers are Black. And they're sharing a percentage of the share of workers in their averagely weekly earnings. Look at the average weekly earnings compared to Black people and everyone else. We're at 791. Native Americans are 801 or 802 rather. Black Americans are at 791. Asian Pacific Islanders, Asian and Pacific Islanders are at 1,168. We're talking about the average weekly earnings. You come down to Hispanics, it drops down. We're slightly above Hispanics, of the ones that they can actually get the statistics from, because we do have a large population of illegal immigrants who are Hispanic. Okay, that's just a fact. Multiracial, 852. So basically saying, if you can be black all you want, but if you're multiracial, you can you can make more than Native Americans, and you can come close, not even close to the white population. Then they have earnings per dollar. White people get dollar for dollar. Black people get 76 cents for the same work, same position, same job on the dollar. Native Americans get 1 cent more. Of course, Asians, they get even more than white people to a certain degree because of the IT jobs and tech jobs. Then Latinos at 73 cents, and then multiracial at 81 cents. Because this is what happens to our people. We don't understand that if we consider ourselves a table, in each of these categories that we went over, they're knocking the legs from under the table: healthcare, unemployment, crime, even pay disparities that we have. Because both political parties use their own methods to obtain the black vote. The only time Republicans really come out to have black people not to vote and maybe grab 1 or 2% of the black vote is because of what the Democrats have not done and what they insinuated and or promised sideways. Because the Democrats, and don't get me wrong, family, my religion and my politics, my political party is black empowerment. Because especially the Democrats, they talk a big game about change, equality, and justice all the time. But once they get that black vote, and they secure their positions, what do we see? What do we see? What do we hear? We see a whole lot of nothing. And we remain at the bottom of every economic category in this country. Healthcare affordability, that's breaking the bank. That's a joke. Unemployment rates, we're the most unemployed, off the charts. Inflation, it hit us the hardest because we're not making as much as everyone else. Education, that's all you need to do. Go to school, get a job. Trade is probably a better way to really make good money and start your business very early, is obtaining a trade, but I digress. Housing disparities. We think how long we've been inside this country, and if you know any history, 1940s, 50s, 60s, don't get me wrong, there was a time where almost half of Black Americans were living in houses. But that has changed dramatically. Because if you increase unemployment, you stagnate our wages, you raise inflation, we now have to sell our homes because of property tax, rising costs of electricity, water, all those things, and now we're back in the apartment because we're not getting dollar for dollar like any other group. Crime, they played a duality mindset of crime. Majority of crime happens in Black neighborhoods. Majority of the crime is happened by Black Americans. But when we look at the statistics, it shows that other groups have higher crime rates. Every sector systematically redlines us out of opportunities. So why do Black Americans continue to vote? Why do we continue to vote? And family, this isn't just rhetoric. This is reality. Our civil rights era brought significant legal changes, sure. But who benefited the most from civil rights? White women and other non-Black groups. Meanwhile, our issues are perpetually overlooked time and time again. We're told to, again, put on your space boots and fly away. It's the same thing over and over again. It's the same thing over and over again because people talking about, let's talk about reparations. Isn't this just a handout? No, reparations is not a handout. It's justice. It's a debt being fulfilled. Again, reparations is not a handout. It's justice. It is a debt being relieved, is a debt being filled. Marching to the rooftop, cash payments, a black anti-hate crime bill, restoration and land grants. These aren't just demands, family, but they're necessary reparative, measures. These are very necessary reparative measures. They address the systematic theft, destruction, and prevention of our black economic advancement. Some people always ask, why cash payment, brother? Why not just get the land? Well, because economic stability starts with financial resources, does it not? Imagine if every Black American received a substantial cash payment to offset centuries of economic disenfranchisement. Because that's not a fantasy. It's a reality in other reparations models, right? Because now, for example, Germany paid reparations to Holocaust survivors. Japan compensated internment camp victims. We need the same acknowledgement in action as well. Because before you can even take care of land because of the property value, you need cash in the bank in order to do so, or the government just come in and take the land. Oh, well, you can build something on it and you can borrow against it, and then you still have disparities and racial discrimination in the banks. So if we have a black anti-hate crime bill and we can prove that a bank has discriminated upon us, you can sue the bank. That's why this legislation is so powerful on the federal level. They will have to cash you out even more so and let them try it again. The fact that we still face rampant hate crimes in 2024 is it's unbelievable. It's unacceptable. But again, no one is oblivious to the occurrence in the history that we have in this country. But a dedicated bill would not only recognize our unique struggles, but it will also enforce stricter penalties for hate crimes against our people, against foundational Black Americans, which will create a safer environment for our communities. That's what it would do. Next, we need land grants and restoration of land. Our ancestors has built a thriving economy only to have many of them be destroyed in various horrific massacres. Because again, imagine if we had the land and resources to build those kind of communities that we always talk about, like the Black Wall Street and Black business districts. We could create our own businesses, schools, hospitals, and more without systematic barriers that have historically held us back. And some people are on this integration shit, right? They're on it, family. They say, oh, why do you want to build Black cities? I'm like, because when we go into town, even in Texas, you go into certain neighborhoods, they're all Indian, from the country of India. They're all Indian. You like, damn. They done built a whole Indian community. The shops are Indian. The food restaurants are Indian. At the CVS, they are Indian. And I have nothing against it. You go in certain neighborhoods, all of them are from the Caribbean. You go in other neighborhoods, all of them are Hispanic. But soon as Black people say, we want to get together and build Black businesses, and we want to build schools, and we want to build community centers, then you have some turncoat Black folk who come out like, why we can't be with the white peoples? Why we can't go out here and intermingle? See, it's okay to do business with everyone, but why is it that people want to live amongst themselves? Because what other communities figured out a long time ago, when they solely do business with one community, they end up getting robbed. They end up getting tricked. That's why you hear that the dollar is circulating in this community 4, 5, 6, 7 times, 8 times, and how those communities' property values raise and how their equity raise and their revenue goes up each and every year because they do business with themselves as well as the dominant society. That's why. That's why, family. Because without systematic barriers that have historically held us back, I can only imagine where we'll be at today. Because look at the Homestead Act of 1862. If any of you are familiar with the Homestead Act of 1862, white Americans were granted 160 acres of land for free. Now, again, that look in today's time, of looking at acreage amongst a group of people may not seem like much, but in comparison to Black Americans, we were left out. Fast forward to the GI Bill after World War II, which was supposed to help veterans buy homes and get educated, but again, Black veterans were largely excluded. So if we take all of these different segments and times in history of Social Security and welfare being given to white people, but today they're throwing it right back in your face. All you Negroes are on welfare and this, that, and the other, where they were actually given tangibles. They were giving land. They were giving grants. They were giving benefits and resources. And you see how far for their heads. Stop beating ourselves up about something that was designed for us to fail. Every time we get to the starting line, we realize they already started 100 years ago. So we're 100 fucking years behind. So all the racist, coonish Black folk, whether it be foundational Black Americans or tethers and the suspected white supremacists, understand the history of foundational Black Americans and why we are in the conditions that we're in. Can we do better? Yes. Are we doing better? Yes. But we need and we are owed our reparations. Because you were giving away shit back in the day and you denied us the same right, even though we were citizens in 1865. Reparations in the form of land grants will correct some of these historical wrongs, giving us the foundation to build generational wealth. Because if we talk policy, the Fair Housing Act of 1968 was supposed to eliminate discrimination in housing. But redlining and today's gentrification and predatory lending have continued to this day. Civil Rights Act of 1964 aimed to end segregation, which I kind of but flipped the term, integration. But our schools are more segregated now than they were back then. Black people are still living majority amongst Black people in Black schools and so on and so forth. But we really need robust enforcement of laws and legislations to a certain degree and see how is that funded throughout our cities. Because if somebody would say, oh, well, do you vote in state elections? Yes, I do. That directly affects me. The only thing that we're owed and need from the federal government is our reparations package. And it's not a one-time thing, family, just as well as any other group like the Native Americans is ongoing and preparatory. We must remember, family, that our fight doesn't end at the ballot box because voting is simply a tool. It's not a solution. We have to continue to hold these guys accountable. Because just as well as they can make legislation, they can amend legislation. We have to keep our issues on the front and center, not just during election season, but every single damn day. But this is the time, family. This is the time to stop selling for empty promises. Somebody that's trying to motivate you and geek you up and pump you all up to go and vote for goddamn nothing once again. This time it's time to demand reparation. This time it's time to demand what is owed. It's time to repair and restore what was stolen from us, what was destroyed from us, what was denied from us. Every now and again, I just think about a time where, and even to a certain degree, we're doing that, but we're doing it at a slower rate. I'm not stating that Black people are not progressing, because we are building, but is at a slower rate than any other group because of these very same reasons we went over here. But I think about a time where we can thrive and build businesses and live without fear of white supremacists destroying what we have built. A piece of that, a part of that, a percentage of that is possible, but only if we keep pushing, we keep fighting, and we never settle for less than we deserve. That's what we're talking about here this evening, family. I thank you all for joining me here this evening. Diaz Bree, Alonzo Dunn, Tube, and everyone else that has joined me this evening. Voting. You already know what I'm voting for, family. You already know. Have a great evening. Be one.